You probably remember this floating shit show from February 2023. It was the top news story for nearly 2 long weeks. This week, there has been a further development in this story that I would like to talk about. Just in case you were on Mars at the time, or in solitary confinement, or were on a mountain without electricity, I will give you a very brief summary of what happened. On February 1, 2023, a commercial airline pilot spotted a large balloon in Canadian airspace, drifting south towards the US state of Montana. NORAD confirmed this on radar, and the US Air Force then scrambled a pair of F-22 Raptors from Nellis Air Force Base. Later a Boeing E-3 AWACS aircraft took off to monitor it, followed by a Boeing RC-135, and later a U-2 spy plane also became involved in the mission. So in no way a complete overreaction to a fucking balloon. This was assumed to be a Chinese surveillance balloon by the US administration. According to US Army General Glenn D. Van Herk, the balloon was 200 feet tall, with a payload that was as wide as 3 school buses, and weighing just under that of 2 Nissan Micras. The administration decided not to shoot the balloon down over Montana, for fear of it crashing onto someone or something, so I beg your pardon. Seriously, what the fuck? In Montana, you could randomly drop hundreds of school buses over the state, and nobody would even know about it, let alone get squashed by a bus. In fact, it could fucking rain school buses, and it would still be less hazardous than the normal Montana extreme weather.
Today, there will be extreme weather everywhere, and a few light showers of school buses.
Oh, whatever. Let's get back to the story so far. For the next 4 days, the news services relentlessly broadcast updated positions for the balloon as it drifted over the continental United States, until the winds carried it to the east coast of America. Once it crossed the coast, at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the Air Force sent another pair of F-22 Raptors to shoot it down with missiles. The first missile missed, but the second one scored a hit. I beg your pardon. Okay, the world's most expensive fighter jet fired a $400,000 missile at a huge and almost stationary target in friendly skies, and it fucking missed. Jesus holy fucking Christ. Anyway, back to the story. Then, an operation was launched to collect the pieces of the balloon from the shallow water, and send it off to the FBI for analysis. And then everything went quiet. The days turned to weeks, the weeks turned to months. And now we are all up to date. Before I talk about the latest news, I would like to invite you to participate in a scientific experiment.
Chinese spy balloon.
That spy balloon.
Spy balloon.
It's the Chinese spy balloon.
Chinese spy balloon.
Chinese spy balloon shot down by the
So,
United States.
it was a spy balloon, and it was sent by China to Montana to spy on US nuclear missile installations. Well, I'm sure glad that the USA doesn't spy on anything or anybody, and that comforting thought helps me to sleep at night. Apparently, at one point, it even came close to a US nuclear missile base. Well, if by close, you mean 130 kilometers away from Malmstrom Air Force Base. The balloon was flying at an altitude of 18 kilometers, and if it was 130 kilometers away, that would give it a pretty shitty view of the Air Force Base. So why not just use a spy satellite, which typically will be about the same distance away, but directly above the Air Force Base, and the average air density would be less, so it would get better pictures. Not to mention the fact that a satellite can carry an absolutely massive telescope mirror, and so get even better images of something they must have already taken thousands of pictures of by now anyway. But why then did the balloon come within 130 kilometers of a US nuclear base? I wonder if it is because in Montana, there are so many damn missile silos, that it is fucking impossible to be more than 130 kilometers away from a US nuclear weapon. But wait, perhaps this balloon was there to intercept military radio communications. But maybe it would be better to just ship some nondescript electronics from China to the US.
Tank, you fascist pig. Now you fuck off.
And then park up in the mall that is right next to the Air Force Base, and intercept these signals all day and night. Unless of course, a more convenient permanent base could be found for the intercept station. No, what China did was to construct a 200-foot airship that has the radar cross-section of 3 school buses, send it halfway around the planet to do a job that clearly satellites and secret agents can do far better, and with almost fuck all chance of actually getting caught. Now that I say it out loud, the balloon makes so much more sense to me. Okay, let's move on. Oh yes, I nearly forgot. So why exactly didn't NORAD see this thing on their advanced radars, until they were notified by a fucking pilot? Those bus-sized solar panels are made of silicon, a metal, so a really good radar reflector. Yes, I know, that pesky calibration problem. Do you know what else is about the length of 3 school buses, and made of metal? Oh, nothing important then. So, let's look at the latest news. It has recently been reported by the federal balloon investigators that, after nearly 5 months of detailed and painstaking analysis, that no intelligence was gathered, stored or sent to China whilst over the US, by this giant fucking balloon. You have got to be fucking kidding. After all the media circus, Air Force, Army and Navy resources, and 2 weeks of 24/7 bullshit, it wasn't even an intelligence threat after all. Perhaps, you might think, the Chinese remotely deleted the data from the onboard computer before it was shot down. Well, think again, you would be quite scared if you knew just how hard it is to really delete data from a memory storage device. Just ask this grinning idiot. So am I saying that I think that this was not a Chinese surveillance balloon? Of course not, I'm not a complete fucking moron. And nor are the Chinese total idiots either. I do not have any evidence either way, but if I had to bet, I would guess that the Chinese use this kind of balloon for intelligence gathering, but over less sophisticated nations, such as those from Southeast Asia or South America. There have been reports that around the time that this balloon would have been approaching the United States, the jet streams were moving in an unusual way. Perhaps this one was blown off course, triggering the total shit show that resulted. I can imagine a shit-scared Chinese intelligence operative, hunched over his computer screen, his sphincter puckered, and dreading that fact that he will eventually have to tell his boss that they are about to be reassigned to the Gobi Desert to count grains of sand for the rest of their miserable lives. As a footnote, did you know that the US also has a large fleet of massive surveillance balloons? And which of America's enemies are being watched by these assets? The Cubans? The Venezuelans perhaps? No, it is America's most feared enemy, its own people. All of these high-tech balloons are deployed within the United States. How nice. Thank you for watching my little video. Please help me to beat the YouTube algorithm by pressing the like button, and if you want to watch more of this kind of video, just subscribe to be notified of new content.